Here we are in Detroit, Michigan at Youmacon 2013, and we have the pleasure of speaking with Jan Scott-Frazier with Lesley Scott sitting in. Lesley?
Thank you for agreeing to talk to us today, Jan. You've been really busy.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, in many of the panels that I've been to, that you've been speaking at, you learned that you do a lot of things, and you've been to a lot of different places.
I get bored very easily, so I keep myself entertained.
You've been to, what was it, about 28 countries?
It's like 28. I don't remember. I'd have to put this one out.
4 or 5 different languages? 4? Okay. A smattering of others?
From traveling, you learn how to say hello in some language that I don't know any other words for. Or bathroom or something.
The important phrases. And we were talking, most of your, well, not most, a decent portion of your career was over in Japan, working for a couple of studios, and we were talking in Japan this morning about the differences between East and West. For you, what was the biggest difference from when you were in Japan and then when you came back there and were working in studios?
The director seems powerless to me here. I know that's kind of a weird thing, but in Japan, I spent a lot of years working my way up the chain until I finally became director. And I had total power of the show. I could change the dialogue however I wanted. I mean, I could call retakes. I mean, I couldn't spend a lot more money or anything like that. But I could, change up almost anything I wanted. And I had the right to say, no, we're not going to put this on TV or whatever. That's a tremendous amount of power. And there's nothing like that here. It was like, I would have, $12 or so million worth of stuff under me that I managed as a director, whereas here, the director is more of a part of a crew, which is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. I am an auteur writer. I'm like an auteur in pretty much every way, but I come from the, Francis Ford Coppola, Stanley Kubrick kind of way. That's how I made my way out there, is because I had that kind of vision, and I wanted that kind of. I had that power in Japan. I had that control, and that's what I wanted. When I came back to the U.S., it was not like that, and because I worked on, I never worked on super independent films, but yeah, that was weird to me after doing that for years, and suddenly I felt like I was on something weird coming back.
No more control.
Well, there's different control. The sponsor has some, and the producers have some, and the animators have a lot more input here. Which again, I'm not saying that's bad, but in Japan they were like, "Oh, y'all shut up. This is what we're doing." Same with the voice actors. Here there's a little bit more input, whereas there I would just push the button and do it again.
You're not done.
Yeah, and it was ultimately completely up to me. The whole process was up to me, and it took, like I said, it took a lot of work, a lot of trust, and a lot of skill, and it was very rewarding. So when I got there, it was a huge trust thing, huge responsibility.
So what was your favorite project that you worked on?
That's hard to say. I worked on my own manga, and that was awesome, Transcendence. I worked on Ghost in the Shell and Blood the Last Vampire, which I liked each for different reasons. My first directing gig was on this game opening for this show, a game called Modern about that age. It was in the Puyo Puyo universe thing, and that was my first directing, so I loved that. I don't even know if that game ever got released, to be honest. But
you had a lot.
Yeah, I had a great crew on that, so I really enjoyed doing that. And let's see. There were so many things. It's like it's hard to say. Well, TV is going to be a lower budget than movies, so you can't really compare those.
Okay, that makes sense. Since you've gotten back to the U.S., you do counseling now too.
Yes, I do indeed.
And how often do you do that as opposed to your art or anything else?
Right now, as many of you know, the animation industry is really in trouble. There's not a lot of. Of course, the world economy is in trouble, which makes the entertainment industry in trouble. So there's work out there, but there's nothing. I'm really picky about what I want to do. I want to have for my voice. I want to have something good that I can work on. So as for doing paying gigs, it's kind of low right now. That's one of the reasons I went back to school. I was like, this is a good time to get my degree, which I never had before. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to do this. I mean, I still do my own art. I still consult with people. I mean, I do a lot of public speaking. I come to cons and I do art and creativity workshops and seminars. I do, of course, the translation panel. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. I do educational outreach. I speak at high schools about anime and, teach.
So you still get to do the otaku thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and I'll do that until they kill me or something, But yeah, I mean, my art is really my own right now, just because there's just, I go through the artist alley and it's so hard to sell anything right now. So I switched back to writing a little while ago. I did a little bit of that, and I work on acrylic paint a little bit, and so yeah, I try to do a lot of different things. I did music for a while.
Good. So what inspires you to create the things that you create?
I would have to say madness.
And what brings the madness?
My brain, the wiring of my brain, which came down from my father, the crazy brain wiring, which has made me touched by fire, as they say. No, it really depends. Sometimes I'll see something, a piece of art, a movie, something that'll just really inspire me. And I'll be like, it won't stimulate me to make something like that necessarily, but it's just like, wow, what am I doing? I gotta get kicked in again. And so it can be anything.
Okay, so did Ender's Game inspire you to create anything that you watched?
I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, when I read the book way back when the book came out, and I read it, that was before I was involved in the industry. I was still pretty young then. I mean, it inspired me in that it was a very interesting book. It was a very interesting premise. When I got to the end, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that was different. That was not what I was expecting. So, I mean, in all science fiction that I've read has inspired me in some way. Some more than others. Like Logan's Run, that was super inspirational to me. The book, the movie, and the book.
Okay.
And still one of my favorite books. I mean, it's a novella. It's only like 35,000 words. But, it's just, I read it in a few hours, but there's just something about it that's very compelling to me.
Okay.
So that, like the Martian Chronicles, and there are so many others. So yes, they all inspire me in some way. I kind of want to see Ender's Game, see what it's like. Yeah, I would be interested.
Some of the previews look good, and others I look at and go,
well, I think it's going to be.
Sure?
I think it'll be very well made. And, there's in my crowd, there's all sorts of controversy about it, of course. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm split, but it's just I don't know. I haven't really decided. What to do about it yet.
controversy, book versus movie.
It's more than that. Yeah, so if it was book versus movie, that would be one thing, but this is more of a social justice sort of thing, and I don't want to get into that.
That's supposed to be.
I don't want to get into it.
Can you pick a favorite country that you've traveled to?
Gosh. Well, again, that's something like,
Like
the UK is so different than China, which is so different than, Indonesia, which is so different than Japan, So, I don't know, I can say my favorite country in Southeast Asia is Cambodia. It's Cambodia.
Okay.
There's something about it that I just love. I wanted to build my studio there, but at the time when I was building it was really not okay. Yeah, the Khmer Rouge was still around, and that was just really not right. That's why I built in Thailand instead. But I don't know. I mean, Tibet was amazing. That was just such an alien world. That was fascinating to me. India was, oh my gosh, India, geez, every city I went to was different, and it was so. It's a planet unto itself. So that was brilliant. I mean, the UK. I've been all over the UK except Wales, and I love Scotland. Oh my God, I love Scotland very much. And so it's really hard to say.
Okay.
Hard to pick a single one, just because they're so different.
It is.
It's like, who's your favorite friend? I don't know. They're all so different.
And a couple that are my favorite.
Yeah, I have a few who are like my best friends for various reasons.
So top five. That's what my family likes to do. Top five.
Top five.
I guess that would have been a better way to phrase it.
Cambodia, Scotland, Canada, especially Vancouver. Malaysia, and I'd say India.
Okay.
The other planet, the planet of India.
You mentioned that you dabble in music.
Yes.
Do you sing? Do you play instruments? Do you do both?
Well, I had nothing to do with music for most of my life. A few years ago being now 2005, I got this crazy idea. Of all things, I was in the emergency room and I got this crazy idea to do, hey, let's do a charity concert with like the voice actors who are, most of them have worked in musical theater. Like, I was working with a lot of folks from Texas at the time. And since they had done that, I was like, that could be good. We could do a charity thing. It would be interesting. I mean, we'd have to do covers, of course, that's fine. And I thought that would be cool. And then it went from being a charity concert to maybe we could record some music. That would be easy, to be honest. And so I came up with this idea to make products for charity. And I called this friend of mine who is a musician. I'm like, I had this crazy idea. And he called me back like 2 hours later and he said, that idea? You have a really band for that. I'm like, I don't know what that meant, but I meant work for me.
Yeah.
And so in 5 months, we knocked out Voices for Peace. We did music in Chicago. We did vocals in Texas, and then Texas, California, and New York. I wasn't there for the California and New York, because we're doing this by the skin of my wallet. It's all right. And that, when I was involved with it, I was just producing.
Okay, so you're singing and producing.
Yeah, but then Chris Ayers says, well, what are you going to sing? I'm like, I'm not singing anything. I don't know how to sing. And he says, well, if you're not singing, I'm not singing. So I had to sing a song, and I picked a hard song. And there were times when we were recording, the first time we had to do syllable by syllable, because I didn't know how to sing at all. I know how to do public speaking, so I don't know how to do singing. So, Voices for, when we were first going to do the albums, I had no idea what I was doing at all. And luckily I had a team of great musicians, and of course I had the voice actors we worked with who, really knew it well. They had never recorded like rock music like that, but they, obviously recorded. And so yeah, I got pushed into singing. It was not my choice, and I bought a guitar, and I was like, I can play the guitar! It was kind of not so great at first, but, I got better at it. I really, one of the reasons why I do so many things, and I have so many interests in all this, because when I focus, I hyper-focus. When I learn something, I consume it for a little while. So, and I've done this for so many things over my life, music, and, animation and painting and I get bored easy. And so with music, it was that I turned it to voice, then I turned it to guitar, then I turned it to keyboard, and of course I was producing the music and directing it and putting it on stage and that stuff like that. It's really rewarding. We made 2 albums, Voices for Peace, Voices for Tolerance, which are available on voices4FOR.org. And that was awesome. The second album especially, because our first album was very kind of rough around the edges. We put stuff back in, like at the end of For What It's Worth. The band just went on. They just started jamming and stuff like that. And so we actually left that on the album because it was a neat jam. But at the very end of that, our lead guitarist, Dale, pulled his guitar, he pulled a chord, so you hear this pop, and our drummer dropped one of his sticks. So we put that in. We actually put the stick back in because it sounded so awesome. Our first album was, we had an idea to make it sound like the Ramones' first album, so it's rough around the edges, but intense and strong. And that was very much the influence of my musical director and my tech director and those guys. Whereas the second album was much more thoroughly me. So the first album was like the Ramones. The second album was like Dark Side of the Moon or Abbey Road. That's my own, very rich. The first album was like intense guitar. The second album was 12-string and ride cymbal. That was my thing. Even bells. So it was a very different. They're both awesome, but they're they're very different. And yeah, Tolerance was much more work. We did Peace in 5 months, but Tolerance took us like almost 3 years.
Oh wow!
Our sophomore was brutal, but it's just, and we worked with different people and more people, a couple bands, and we had songs that people put together themselves, and it was really cool. I liked doing it. And we did concerts until the end of 2010. Okay. When after that we just could not get everyone in the same place. Our musicians were doing stuff, and yeah, it became hard. So we stopped doing the live shows, although we don't produce albums anymore. We still sell them.
Okay.
Yeah, we still promote and stuff like that.
You're gonna maybe get together and try to get any other songs.
You know, I was talking with somebody about doing like a reunion-ish concert kind of thing if we could find the right space and have the right people in the same place, because a lot of us don't go to the same cons anymore. Just things change, you know. The cons are like, oh, we're going to invite these guests, new guests, and this, and you know, because we used to play at OhioCon and ASIN and Sugoi-Con and stuff like that. And well, I went to OhioCon this year, but besides this year, I haven't been to any of those cons in some years. So, you know, it's just, but I come here, I'm at Youmacon, and I go to some other cons that are different now. So, you know, it's just kind of, we have those changes, so that becomes a little weird. And, when we stopped playing on stage, that was weird for me because I missed it really badly, and I'm not good enough on my own as a musician to kind of do my thing. I went to a couple open mics, and that was just, no, I need my guys to support me and make me sound good.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do my own thing now. I play a little music. I went back to this kind of, what can I say, organic thing a few years ago. I just stopped doing art on the computer. I was playing the guitar and the synth and stuff like that, the keyboard, and I like the keyboard still, but I was like, no, I need to have something that I can carry with me that's simpler, that's like whatever. Because I was actually playing music on stage on my phone for a while, you know, using Bebop and a couple of reps. That was awesome. But it looks like I'm texting on stage. It's not Rockstar at all. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I decided I want to play something simple that's acoustic, and I don't have to fool around, easy, breakable. So I said, I was at a garage sale, and I bought a little ukulele, and I'm like, ooh, this is fun. And I don't remember the name of the guy, but there's a guy who has this little slideshow online, and the two things I remember from that, which make ukulele applicable for me, are one, ukulele is punk as hell, and number two, enthusiasm beats experience every time. I'm like, now that is me. So I don't have necessarily talent, but I have the enthusiasm, so I can get on my uke and just rock away, and everyone likes, I only know sing-along songs, you know, or songs that other people know and like to sing with, like Take On Me, and, you know, that kind of stuff, and just fun music. So yeah, it's just a
little upbeat thing to do.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. Did you have any weird experiences or see anything particularly strange over the weekend at Youmacon?
There's nothing weird at this place at all. It's all so vanilla and boring. Everyone was just wearing business suits and cocktail dresses, and well, I had a couple experiences that were weird. When I'm doing my translation panel, I tell this story about interpreting for this Japanese artist named Monkey Punch, and he had always wanted to meet this artist from Mad Magazine, Mark Drucker, and eventually at Comic-Con I was interpreting for Monkey Punch at a panel, and they brought Mark Drucker in, and it's kind of a long explanation, but Monkey Punch had wanted to meet Mort for like 30 years, and had spent money but never connected with him. So this was the moment of his life. This was the peak of Monkey Punch's life up to that point. I don't know what happened since, but that was it. And so that was a really cool, intense experience. And while I wasn't even talking about that yet, but a guy brought it up. And so I thought he had been to my translation panel before, but he was there. He was there in 1998 or whenever that was. And I was like, oh my God. He showed me a sketchbook, and there's Monkey Punch's drawing and my drawing right after it of my manga character. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't drawn that character in 10 years, you know? Yeah, it was very interesting. I'm like, why don't I draw that character anymore, you know? So yeah, you know, that was really cool. That was very cool. There's been a couple trippy things this weekend that I was just not really expecting. But as for really weird, I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I mean, I go to a lot of cons, so I see a lot of crazy behavior and stuff like that, costumes. So yeah, this was a great. You know, okay, let me rephrase that. The weirdest thing I saw all weekend was this guy named Sonny Strait. And he is nothing but trouble. And he's kind of like ghosty Velociraptor-ish sometimes. You may see him somewhere out on the internet. Don't trust him. But, don't trust him, but buy his stuff. I'm just saying.
And vote We Shadows Up.
Yes, vote it up.
Yes.
Right now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, and I hope the rest of your weekend is enjoyable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jan.
No problem.
And from Detroit, Michigan, and Youmacon, this has been The Weird Review.
He had to.
weird.